Hello, I'm Cheryl Johnson. I'm a sixth-year art teacher, and today I want to talk about digitally mediated teaching and learning as well as its connection to art education. I recently began my graduate journey, and my first class was on this topic, and I was really excited to explore and learn more about it. And at the end of it, I really wanted to share what I'd learned with my fellow educators, especially my fellow art educators. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is a PLE. What is a PLE? What does that stand for? A PLE is a professional learning environment, and that refers to the content that someone learns as well as the context in which they learn. And the way that one grows their knowledge and experience is just as important as what they are learning. And these are a really great tool for professionals applying for jobs or students applying for their studies. For example, I'm a very visual learner, and that carries over a lot into how I educate. And if I have documentation showing my strengths when using visual tools and methods of creation and education, my future employers may find that information really useful when reviewing my application and my PLE. Another example of a PLE could be an e-portfolio. An e-portfolio can be used by students or professionals to gather and curate their knowledge and supporting documents to showcase their abilities. And this is something that I know is very familiar in the art ed world, but this can go for anything as well. But I know if you are an art teacher, you are very familiar with portfolios. Other examples of PLEs are things that we use almost every day, things like Pinterest, Instagram, personal websites, blogs, Facebook, and any other digital tools we use to gather, learn, and educate. A PLE is a living document of my knowledge and experience, and creating my PLE creates an opportunity to share gathered information and skills with others throughout the digital landscape. And I wanted to create a PLE that not only shared my growth in work as a graduate student, but also my professional and personal experiences as an art educator. I had accounts on a number of social media sites that I use professionally. I created an Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Teacher Pay Teacher, and really anywhere else I could make one. I rebranded them back in September to make the profiles cohesive across platforms, but the one thing I hadn't created was a website using the same branding. Fortunately, I began my master's studies, and that was one of the first things that we were assigned to do. So I used Wix to create my website. I chose Wix because I'm familiar with the format, and I first used it to create my own e-portfolio when I was an undergrad student completing my bachelor's in art education. And as a visual artist, Wix provides so many opportunities to edit and personalize my site to express myself personally and professionally. And not only can it be heavily personalized, but it also easily displays photos, Instagram feeds, blog posts, digital files, and so much more that is really important to be able to show as an art educator. When we create our social media accounts and visit websites, we're creating a digital identity. Our digital identity is our digital footprint that we leave behind. My goal for creating my digital identity is to share my knowledge of art education with the world. I love to create content that other educators may find useful or enjoy, and doing that digitally is obviously the easiest way to reach my audience. If you're an educator, especially in the upper levels, a PLE can be a great assessment tool for your students. A PLE is a living documentation of your students' knowledge and experience, so information and documentation is simple to update and curate, all in one easily accessible place. It's such a great method for allowing your students to curate their work and documents to show their learning. It's easy for students to adjust their presentation of their work and share it with you for review. A digital portfolio is a great thing for upper level students to have and create in order to prepare for their future education and careers. Students in the Metro program in Portraits of Learning by Malik, Shada, Cox, Beers in Love said, I was able to reflect back on the importance of the classes I have taken. I've learned that each class and each activity contributes to the kind of person I am today. Others commented on how using an e-portfolio allows them to see their growth since their first year and realize how much they have accomplished. The opportunity for reflection is such an important part of learning and self-improvement, and it's made very simple through the organization and curation of a PLE. My favorite part of the digital world is community. It's important to focus on community and collaboration in a digital learning environment because it makes education more engaging and less passive. Rutherford said, "Collaborative activity between students is a key tool in enhancing engagement, a sense of partnership, and a sense of ownership of their learning." Collaborative work in a learning environment encourages students to evaluate not only the thoughts and products of their collaborators, but also their own work. When we collaborate, we review the work of others because we want to make sure that it conveys the message we wish to get across. When we review our own work in the same setting, we do so in order to make sure that our desired thoughts are being correctly expressed to our collaborators and our audience. When I'm working on a group project, I personally feel more encouraged to give that assignment my all because my work not only affects me, but also those I'm collaborating with. The driving factor for this feeling is a sense of community. When you're in a learning environment with others, there is a sense of camaraderie, especially if it's a more difficult or higher level course. The joint experience of taking the same course or working in the same space together creates that sense of community. This causes us to not want to disappoint or let down our group members and encourages us to work harder. Collaboration allows us to work with a variety of different perspectives. Having different voices contribute to a project or resource allows us to feed off one another and provide richer content. As an art educator, I cover a lot of different topics. Art history is human history. I rely a lot on videos, resources, information, and quotes I find online to help present topics that I might not be the most familiar with. This especially goes for cultural connections. I don't have the experiences of every culture, so I need to rely on the voices of those people from the cultures I'm making connections to provide context and richer connections. Building a sense of community in an educational environment can be done in many ways. For instance, posing a question on a blog post and making commenting available for the audience can make them feel more connected to the author. Asking questions is a great way to start. Opening that line of communication shows that you care about the thoughts of your audience or group members. This would also help the blogger feel more connected to their audience and even help influence what the blogger posts moving forward. Group folders or digital files are a simple method for sharing information and collaborating with others. I currently have a Google Drive folder that I share with the other elementary art teacher in my district. This allows us to work together on lessons, share resources, and provides the opportunity for us to work together instead of working individually. Dividing up the work is a great help and a huge time saver for us both. There are so many opportunities for building a sense of community in the digital world, a lot of which we do passively. Do you belong to an art teacher Facebook group? Do you save and post content to Pinterest? Those are all simple and effective methods for building and partaking in a digital community. And speaking of community, one of the best ways to build a community is to contribute to it by creating an OER. What is an OER? I had never personally heard that term before, but once I had learned a bit about it, I realized that I use them almost daily. An OER is an open educational resource. An OER is a research or educational resource that is able to be used and repurposed freely. This is due to the content being part of the public domain or under a license that allows free use by others. There are 5 different digital practices that sum up an OER. The first one is retain. Users have the right to make, archive, or own copies of the content. Number 2 is reuse. Content can be reused in its unaltered form if the person that is seeking the OER chooses. Number 3 is revise. Content can be adapted, adjusted, modified, or altered. This is one that I probably use the most. Number 4 is remix. The original or revised content can be combined with other content to create something new. This is also one that I use very, very often when I'm creating PowerPoints, lesson plans, things like that for my students. And the final one is redistribute. Copies of the content can be shared with others in its original, revised, or remixed form. There are so many different OERs that you've probably used without even knowing. If you're like me, you're always looking for available resources to use for your lessons. One of my favorite OERs to use is Slide Carnival. There are a number of really great websites like Slide Carnival where you can download and use free PowerPoint layouts to match your needs. I found the art teacher groups on Facebook also present a lot of OER opportunities that are made with teachers in mind because they were created by fellow teachers. The final topic I want to touch on is copyright. Something that we should always keep in mind is copyright. As art educators, we are always creating new materials and resources for our lessons. Maybe you're creating content that you're posting online to sell, or maybe you're sharing it for free. No matter how we use the internet, we need to be aware of copyright laws. Anything posted to the internet is automatically copyrighted. Most OERs simply just require acknowledgement of the original creator, but there are other elements of copyright. One of them being attribution. Like I said before, means that you need to acknowledge the original creator in that work. The other one is non-commercial. No one other than the original creator can make money off of that content. Another would be no derivatives, meaning that you can't change the original content in any way. Share alike means that if you share the content in a changed way, that you need to share it under the same Creative Commons license. And the last thing that's the most free in terms of how you use it is free cultural works. If anything is labeled as that, you have the most freedom to change, alter, do whatever you'd like with that work. And I would just like to leave you with this one question. How will you contribute to your educational community, both online and in the physical world? Thank you so much for watching. A special thank you to all the articles, papers, and other resources that help make this video possible.